in Australia, and it's the same around the world, but I'll speak for Australia because I know it a lot better. We haven't balanced the budget now for 15 years. We've egged up our total debt to GDP from about 10% of GDP to 60%. Now, if we don't get out of this, by the time we go into the next crisis, it's going to be a next crisis. They come along very, very regularly, by the way. Financial crises and economic. Instead of going into the next one at 10% debt, we'll go in at 60, right? And we'll come out of that one at 100. And then we'll go on to the one after that at 100. We'll come out at 200. Now, what are you going to do with all of this debt, right? In Australia, we're heading up to $1 trillion of debt. Well, nobody thinks we'll pay it back. Nobody got a plan to pay it back. We'll just ratchet it up through each cycle. And this is where I do feel for young people, actually. The debt isn't going to go away.
No.
It will have to be serviced. And who will have to service it? Well, not you and I, because, we'll be off our mortal coil in about 20 years' time or whatever. The young people that are being born today, they'll have to service this debt, the debt of 2008, the debt of 2020, the debt of 2030, the debt of 2040. And you've got to remember, this is going to bite into their spending power. Their taxes are going to be higher. And this is where I think, I would say to you, and I always argued this when I was in government, low debt is a youth policy.
Yeah.
Low debt is a youth policy.
I remember.
Well, what can we do for young people? We can give them a society where all they have to do is pay for their spending, not pay for their spending and our spending.
Yeah.
Right?
Agree.
We're giving them a society where they're going to have to pay for our spending and all of the generations that go before them, and then turn around and try and fund themselves. This is a very anti-youth policy. Every time I hear someone say, no, spend some more money, help the young people. Actually, spending the more money, if it's borrowed, and it is all borrowed, for 15 years, every
extra dollar spent.
Deficit, every extra marginal dollar has been borrowed. You're not giving them much of a go. And the whole debate in Australia has now become, we've opened up this big gap between spending and tax, so we've got to think of some higher taxes. I want someone to say, well, why don't we think of going back to the kind of spending we used to have? Then we'd be able to do it all on the tax base that we've got. But that argument just seems to be going. Now, here's the point. Every time you ratchet up debt, every time you ratchet up spending, and inevitably, therefore, ratchet up tax, every time you do that, the government expands.
Yes.
Right? Because the government's taxing more, the government's spending more, the government's borrowing more, the government expands. And every time you do that, you are creating this huge operation which now has much more reach in all sorts of areas. And that to me does impinge on individual liberty.